Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to our second Founders Hot Seat. This is a great opportunity for founders to talk about real life challenges and hear from experts who've been there and kind of done that. This is a great event, and we're excited to have you on board and watching with us and hopefully learning with us as well. I'm excited to talk to our panelists today and the founders. We've got great folks here. And without further ado, we're just going to jump in and hear from who our expert panelists are. Ali.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. My name is Ali West. I'm the CEO of New Valley Labs, where we focus on helping underserved founders in the LGBTQ plus community. And my skill set is in big data, AI, and just loving to compute. And so we focus on pre-seed companies. And instead of investing money, we invest our time and services. And we do a lot of lever pulling and working with getting ideas off the ground. So we love the in the trenches idea phase. And so we work on a lot of cool ideas all the time.
I muted myself. That sounds super great, Ali. Thank you so much for being here. Evan, thanks for being here. Tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you. Evan Rains, co-founder, essentially chief strategy officer, and everything else for a company called PaySitters. We're a consumer-facing fintech, but we're 100% like B2B to C in terms of our go-to-market. A lot of in-depth AI, ML stuff in terms of bill pay, analytics, and visualization of financial data, full spectrum stuff for the entire process. Basically, I call us a full suite kind of like financial security system for the folks out there. So it's all about access to data, tools, empowerment for kind of what they call ALIS community. So like asset limited income constrained employee, just middle of the road folks, because I've been there and I know exactly what that's like, and I know the pain of it. I spent 15 years in enterprise level security integration, so three-letter intelligence agencies, engineering, designing systems for them, multinational corporations, and started InsurTech company. It was my first business, getting pretty deeply involved in the solar, residential solar energy business as well. So across the board, I don't have Ivy League degree. Matter of fact, I don't have a degree at all, and I think I'm a poster child for folks just being gritty and tough and fighting and
You got this. Fail works. You got this. The Knox. Wow.
yeah.
Well, we're happy to have you on with us, and I'm sure the founders are going to learn a lot from you. Let's hear from our last but not least panelist, McKelpie.
Thanks, Jamie. So my background, all the way back to college, mechanical and aerospace engineering, then went into operations management at a couple aluminum manufacturing companies here in Cleveland. And then I was chief operating officer at a cybersecurity company called EveryKey. We started as a hardware device, so it shipped over 50,000 of those, and then pivoted to a software solution and enterprise, getting contracts with the Air Force, LG Electronics, and HP. And then last year, so now I'm building a Cleveland innovation ecosystem with all of these fine folks here. And this past fall, organized Cleveland Tech Week and try to build more of those types of events to uplift all of us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being here. I'll introduce myself briefly, and then we're going to kick it off to our first founder. So my name is Jimmy Van Dorn. I am a multi-tech founder. I've had the pleasure of raising here in the Midwest and on the coasts, and have a strong background in marketing and strategy, and do work for companies from pre-seed through Series C and beyond. So with that, let's actually hear from our first founder, Amir. Why don't you come up onto the stage?
Yeah, for sure. Hello everyone. I mean, it says Amirali, but everybody calls me Amir, so feel free to call me Amir. I'm actually a student right now at Case Western Reserve University here at Ohio. I'm a sophomore studying finance and business management. But as our
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your company.
yeah, for sure, has that account. Yeah, for sure. And
like my company is called Solutions, and what we have built, like as simple is a Duolingo for sign language. So AI powered software to teach sign language to individuals easier and more effective than ever. And our main pain point is really as a B2C company is to kind of like finding our customer, finding our target audience, and finding individuals who are actually interested in our business and our market. And I want to hear from you guys, like, what are the best ways we can kind of like start promoting ourselves and be able to find the target audience that we're looking for. Uh, yeah, that's the main pain point we're having these days.
I want to highlight that he's had a talk about your downloads real quick.
Oh, for sure. So far we have 100,000 downloads. Actually, yesterday we achieved that, and we have 15,000 users. So we have a good amount of people being on app. I just want more, as Evan said, be greedy, basically. And yeah, actually, like around half an hour ago, we launched our latest version 3, and we made a whole promotion video and stuff. You guys can check it out on our Instagram. But yeah, glad to be here. Thank you, Shannon, for the shout out.
Yeah, of course.
For sure. So, I do want to, that was perfect because that was going to be my question too, is actually where you were to provide a little bit more context. Is there a specific challenge that you're having though with downloads or with customer acquisition or with monetization of those customers? So that way we provide a little bit more for our really smart panelists to respond to.
Oh, for sure. So we are right now, our most of our downloads in the like customer, and also we're pre-seed, so none of our users are still a customer. So we're like competitive here. We haven't launched our premium version, and that's gonna be the main revenue model. But as of now, all of our downloads and users mostly come from Google Ads and social media advertisements. But we found out that a lot of like these downloads and users are what we would call a dirty like user. I don't- like it sounds really bad, but like in the world of like the users that are not necessarily downloading the app because of a need, they're just like they're just exploring the apps on the App Store and Google Play. So we found that a lot of these users, they don't engage and they don't have a lot of retention in our app. So therefore, I would be really interested into how would you guys advise me to kind of like increase this retention, increase this uh like users coming to app and using it more, and that's like a basically the main pain points. If that helps with more.
Absolutely. Do we have a panelist that wants to jump in first? Like McKelvey, Ali, Evan.
Got something for you, I think, in terms of the way you bypass consumer, like direct to consumer engagement in this case. Not that you don't want that, but consumers are all based on peer psychology. So it's like, if other people are doing it, then I'm going to do it. Therefore, I'm going to engage. You're tapping into like sovereign will of like, if I do something choice, like based on choice, I stick with it. Right. So, but the way around that, at least popping up to me, is I would go straight to healthcare. So like, you got Title 3 of the ADA. What is that? 1557, where it's like, oh, they mandate under that, like communication and stuff for hard of hearing folks. You could go to those hospitals, medical systems, their workforce development folks as a complement, as like you would institutionalize it essentially, as long as it's polished and clean and scalable. And then all of a sudden you've got people engaging through that conduit. And then all of a sudden they're like, ooh, I love this. I'm going to recommend it. And other people are going to do it. So you build a network effect backwards, basically, in terms of that. That's just my first thought. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but
Yeah, I go for sense. I too.
McKelvey or Ali, do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, I was gonna say the exact same thing actually. Like, yeah, start going the B2B to C model and partnering with healthcare and yeah, even education and schools, like again, younger elementary schools, like go after the people who really need it at first. If like they're gonna be seeking that help. So yeah.
paraprofessionals, like in the school systems, that's 100% exactly right. Like they'll buy this all day. And yeah, that's super direct.
Ali, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I just had a question in terms of like having 100,000 downloads with 15K users. What's like the current turn rate, and then what's like what is keeping those 15K? Like what's keeping it sticky, and then what makes it more sticky to the next premium model? That way you can kind of hone in on what's working and magnify that.
Mm. Towards your first question, our burn rate is extremely low right now, and the only like burn rate that we have actually is just like some AI tools and stuff like
Right, not burn rate, churn rate.
like churn rate. Oh, sorry. Our churn rate is around. So again, like because we are still pre-revenue, we haven't basically like we don't have exact number for our burn rate for our churn rate. Sorry, but from what we have noticed is that kind of like towards 75% of the users, they don't go more than 7 day retention. So after like installing that first and then using it for a week, they will come back to that. And that's like basically kind of the most similar thing we have right now to churn rate.
Have
Sorry, in terms of
you identified where in the process they're cutting out? Like how far into it, or is there a process? Like where are they failing? Is what I would.
For a very question, like right now we just like get sorry. And out of Recon, we set up a system to kind of find out which page and which specific section of the app they leave that. And we found few locations that we think are our weaknesses. One of them being our sign up flow. So our sign up flow has like, so like we didn't use to have sign up with Google, and that resulted in a lot of people like just not signing up at all. And now we have sign up with Google, but the sign up with Google doesn't bring the user back to the app weirdly, which is a like kind of technical bug. I'm down to fix it, and that we think is resulting in a lot of users dropping out. But overall, like we feel like the sign up flow is where kind of like users mostly drop out. It's not really necessarily the one page or anything like that, and that's the biggest like drop rate that we have. And we actually tried 3 different versions of sign up flow. We need to have sign up flow because we need to have a like kind of profile of the user, so we can technically remove that. And at the same time, we want to make to get as much information as user from the user as possible. That's why we have like a entire flow of like questions, things we ask, or like even hooking the user by like showcasing some of the features that app has before when they signing up. But still, we see a lot of like jailbreak there, which we're trying to resolve basically.
So they're not queuing in from the beginning. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. What we had to do with PaySitters is eliminate a bunch of questions and stuff in the beginning, because like you have to make it frictionless. Like you've got to Teflon coat this whole thing to where they can get in, and then you do your job talking about your thing. So I would minimize as much of that intro questioning as possible to the extent that it, allows for you to do your thing. Sorry, stop talking now.
No, it's okay. I just want to. It is a really good point. I just want to make sure that I think Ali had a thought that she wanted to share as well. I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, Ali.
Oh, no, it actually got covered in terms of like where are people dropping off, because my big thing is like finding what's sticky with the people that have stayed, even though they fought through that flow, and analyzing that, because we can come up with a strategy of like B2B and finding all these people, but if 75% are dropping off, you don't want to really fire that cannon right off the bat, and then you have nowhere to go because you already went through all your potential customer. So that would be my biggest fear. Even if we gave you like the golden arrow today.
So I have a couple of thoughts to add in as well. Usually I try to stay in the background, but this is kind of my sweet spot. Amir, I do want to ask, are you guys using Hotjar or any other kind of like tool that's going to give you a heat map as to where users are interacting? Because to Ali's point, that's going to help you determine kind of where that stickiness is happening. So let me ask you that first and answer that succinctly, because I have another thing to mention on acquisition.
Oh, so I don't know which specific platform we're using, but we have something similar which gives us a.
Okay, so you have some map data, so that should really help you, but it does sound like it might be a little bit of a UX UI issue. If you're not getting through sign up. So, I would bring on somebody to kind of really audit your UX UI. In terms of acquisition, what everybody else has said is absolutely true. But for something like this, there's a cool factor as well. And so what I would probably recommend is if you have a little bit of money is to reach out to some micro influencers, especially in the deaf community, as well as other micro influencers, and find ways to incorporate the app in like well, one, they can promote the app, but two, you can get other people who might want to like use the app and sing a song in sign language and have it be really kind of fun, really kind of cool. And that's going to create kind of this like, oh wow, I want to be able to do this. Look what I can do with this. I can express in a different way. And everybody else is spread as well, and reaching out to the schools and things, but there is this opportunity for you to kind of create some buzz and create engagement by having it be something that people really feel is like fun and enjoyable. And to that end, ensuring that you have some gamification apps so that there's a reason for people to come back again and again. Duolingo does a great job of that. A lot of the other language ones too as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
Just one final thought. I think you've got 20, 30 million people minimum who like are adjacent to the actual hard of hearing community who are like, I would love to know how to communicate better or, more effectively. Like that's also a massive addressable market.
Yeah, just to comment on that. So every key, it's a password manager but it uses proximity and you don't have to type anything. We weren't realizing this, but it actually was very helpful for accessibility and people who had difficulty typing, etc. And we weren't expecting that. We didn't realize that, but people started reaching out to us who were grandparents and parents of people who had difficulties with these, telling us how thankful they were for a solution like that. So yeah, if you can get that type of UGC, user generated content, etc., like it's really valuable.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you. Panelists, any last thoughts or questions for Amir?
Not here, but so for you, Jamie and Shanna, is this type of I know we have limited time, but are we able to possibly pull up UX really quick?
Probably not in this environment. There's just not time. We have 25 minutes for each of our panelists, unfortunately. Ali, you had a question though. You were about to jump in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, having the question that you presented to us, like, what is the urgency of your current situation of getting from having free users to paid users? And like, is that for growth or is that to stay alive, or like, what is that looking like?
Great question. It's very much for growth. So we're planning to launch our premium in a month, and we basically want to make sure that that app is worth the money users are paying. So want to make sure that like they come back to the app, there's good retention, the churn rate is not high, and then launch the premium so like you don't get disappointed by the numbers basically.
Yeah, how did you choose what's behind the paywall?
So we very much as I think one of the judges mentioned, we kind of very similarly get inspired by Duolingo. So a lot of things like because the apps are basically really similar even in terms of UI. So we thought that soft features that Duolingo has like we might be able to offer as well. And one of the most important thing is no ad. So basically we're gonna showcase an ad to user after every lesson they add. And for them, in order to not see this ad, like not waste their time on the ad, they have to purchase the premium. And the premium also offers like unlimited energy, unlimited like hearts, extra like street freezes, like those kind of stuff as well.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. We have 2 minutes left, a minute and a half. So if anyone has any final thoughts.
Yeah, just figure out how to get the login and sign up streamlined, right? Like obviously none of the other stuff really applies materially until you do that, because you actually do have an idea of who is engaging and what those profiles are. So like that's important, but it's kind of being distorted by the fact that so many people can't get in. So you're not really getting detailed data as to exactly who and how you can break that out and kind of leverage it. So yeah, That would be the first priority, especially if you're launching in a month.
So, Amir, was it helpful for you? Do you feel like you got any insights from this?
Yeah, for sure. No, I had a lot of good like ideas to implement. Of course, the sign up flow thing, we didn't know about it until we actually like went and implement those like hotspot maps, as you mentioned, and that was interesting to hear. Like a lot of these we already thought about as well. But hearing from like you guys like means that assures us that yeah, that's the right place to go and look at. So and then also the B2B B2C model, that was very interesting. We never actually thought about it that way to see like B2B, B2C there. We are planning to launch enterprise at some point, but like probably going earlier on would be a better move.
Yeah, you look at it as an acquisition strategy as opposed to just another channel.
Exactly. And then your UI UX auditing. At least you didn't know there's UI UX auditing. I knew there are designers. I didn't know they're auditing as well. So I'm gonna probably like perform that as well. And then the UGC. UGC was something also we really UGC and also micro influencers. That was something we're really looking into, but we never made the first step to doing that. And after this session, probably I'm gonna just like go pull money. Oh, yeah, just do it. If says, yeah,
Even just a few folks to just try it out and see what's hitting and what isn't. You know,
yeah,
not always have to go deep and spend a lot right away. You can experiment. But
do you have time for a final question or?
unfortunately, we don't. We have to move on to the next person. But
Can I just plug real quick? Amir, we're rooting for you at South by Southwest.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes, everything's set for that. Thank you so much, Hannah.
if we do, Amir, if we do have some time at the end, we'll pull you back in to our Translator's final question. Okay. So write it down or keep it in your pocket. But with that, Amir, thank you so much for being in the hot seat. Let's bring up India Johnson from UAV Style. India, hello. Why don't you just very quickly tell us about your company and about your pain point or challenge?
Yes. So my company is Quantum Aerial. We have software for drone data management and data analysis. It's an MVP. We're doing continued development. Our current problem, we have two. So one is the continued development. So structuring that, have a small team. How do I, as a very currently ill, but also stretched thin founder, support the team so that they can be effective in developing our newest features, which I think will be integral to revenue, generating revenue. And then also, our second problem, getting users. So how do we attract subscribers, paying subscribers, and then have that relatively high retention rate? Because right now our current model is tiered monthly based on the features that they're using. Um, Usage based later, or currently tiered monthly or annual. So yes, development structure and then getting users, paying users.
So before we turn this over to the panelists, just explain a little bit about the use case of the product and or who the customers are in like just less than a minute if you can.
So use case, drones, different data products. So 2D, 3D reconstructions of areas based on images. This is used in natural resources, construction, different industries. Not many efficient ways to organize that or analyze that data. Same with drone video data. Our software helps solve that problem. And our primary customers are natural resource managers as well as AEC firms.
Okay. Yeah, great. Great.
And also other drone companies as well. Sorry.
You know, the drone companies who have a bunch of data that they want to figure out how to best organize so that that data becomes useful. Makes sense. Well, who on the panel wants to dive in to this double-sided problem? One, you know, keeping the team on track and you know, focused on development when there's so much to do, and then also the competing priority of getting those paying customers. so that you can keep the doors open.
Are you doing, and so you said natural resource manager. Are we talking like municipalities? Are we talking, you have to, like, give me a little bit of context on that, like exactly, because I'm thinking a couple things, but I need, yeah, tell me exactly who your target is for that specific aspect for environmental type applications.
So our initial target is conservation focused orgs. So think invasive species management. Out there. But broadening that out to municipalities who might have bigger budgets and also environmental subdepartments of ADC firms.
Uh, so the services side of the business funds the mission, so to speak. Like, at what point does the invasive species detection, which I think is a huge opportunity, product become like the primary business, and what does the inflection point look like that if you've got traction there? Is that is a huge opportunity.
I'm not really sure. Because honestly, I'm in a kind of inflection point myself where, I spent so much time raising funds that, this year and late last year, I started focusing on sales and marketing. So now it's like, oh, okay, we need to actually bring money in on the business side of things, on the fundraising, and had some success there. So I don't really know when the business side, completely funds the software side or a software side ends up funding the business side and kind of what that hybrid looks like yet.
Have you had any success like getting pilot agreements with anybody, especially in that invasive species detection thing, like to just say, hey, let's try it out, let's get some data, let's figure out what the exact value is so that you can really, in a sophisticated way, articulate that to other prospects, because pilots are so key. And, just getting a friendly environment where, like, hey, let's figure this out. It may not work, but let's get some data so we know one way or another. That's a very consultative, like, hand holding, we're on the same type of the table type conversation where you're adding value by allowing them to figure out the value. Does that make sense? And that's such a huge narrative point, especially B2B2C, where it's like, you need to go straight to the folks who are making the big decisions, the connecting points. And so I have to absolutely have an encyclopedic understanding of what they're looking for, what they're not looking for, and how I can bridge the gap and find that sweet spot. Like, that's so huge in terms of what information you need to get. So, like, that would be my primary advice at this point.
Thank you for that. And yes, we actually have had some success with partnering with conservation orgs primarily for data collection needed to train the models, and then in research space. Um, One downside with that is, again, with the lower budgets, it's like, okay, this is a fair amount of work on my end for zero pay, but really good data. Um, so we have partnered there, and I do think that's very valuable for continued growth. And I'll continue to pursue that. Thank you.
Yep. So you found appetite though on that side, right? Is what you're telling me?
Yes.
I would go in and just make my own consulting deal as an individual, and then consult and then identify through my own products how I can fit that in and also offer other data, right? Like multifaceted value. I've literally done that before, and they will pay you to help them figure it out. Sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but like, if you've got subject matter expertise, like, leverage that any way you can, and then let that be the segue into potentially optimizing your own product and then delivering it through the established channel you now have as a relationship, right? Like, that's all I ever think about is like the path of least resistance, and like, how can I leverage myself and not something outside of me to get something done?
This is a really great transition point because, Ali, I do want to bring you up because I know that you work with a lot of startups and you work with a lot of early stage startups. And I'm wondering if there's something that you run into a lot with founders, especially solo entrepreneurs who have less bandwidth, and how they kind of start transitioning from building and maintaining their product to really selling and monetizing that product.
Yeah. First, hello again, because we've talked quite a few times. It's always lovely to see you because I love this product. I think one of the big things, and I kind of want to build on what Evan was saying, is especially as being a nerd and a developer, I like to build a lot of cool stuff. And there's a lot of cool things happening here. And one of the things is like, how fast do you get these pilots? But how do you also like you're saying, like, you don't want to work for free, right? Like, you don't want to you want to have these pilots and they've like, it's cool if it did this, it's cool if it did this. And you're like, yeah, it is. But now you're just building and building and building, but you're never getting paid. So I think one of the big focuses there is how far, and I'd love to actually hear, I've been built on this a little bit, is like how far can you take those pilots before you can go, okay, we can kind of see some data, this is working. The next portion is going to cost you like 10K or 5K or whatever it's going to cost. So you're not building features for free, but you're also like still giving them a discount where they're like growing with you to the point that they're getting a discounted product, but now you're paying your devs, and like the business side is at least it's not maybe breaking even, but you're not taking everything out of your pocket. Evan, if do you want to build on that? I would love to hear where you were going.
Yes, I think I love where you're going, and actually, the for me, the logical procession is, and this I give you an example of something I've actually done. So with PaySitters, we're targeting the B2B model. To get to the C is I'm going through utilities, right? So like it's a consumer bill pay thing. To the utilities, I have an unbelievable value that is separate from the value prop to the consumer. So in this case, I went to a company called Vista Energy. They're an energy provider in the Northwest, a couple, 3, 4 states. And I said, look, here's my prop here. I can increase your auto pay uptake. I can eliminate paper billing. I can, streamline receivables. I can reduce arrears and like prevent arrears. These are all huge points for them. So my point is like, what are the native like problems that you're dealing with? So then I said, okay, I'm going to build, here's my product now, but what I'm literally going to do is just build a product that identifies and targets these specifics are like ROI, like leaks that you're not established that you're receiving now. I built the product around what they specifically told me. And then I said, in terms of how do I monetize this? Because right now at an early stage, it's either I have an investment capital coming in to fund the thing, or I generate it through a consumer relationship or customer relationship. So I said, look, I'll build this for you. The numbers that I'm going to deliver are so profound. What I need you to do then is invest in my business. And they're like, oh. So Avista went from a pilot agreement to cutting me a check for $1 million because their value that they're going to receive might be doing what I do, and nobody else is doing what I do. They're like, this is like, we're going to get a return on this very quickly. And we get to participate on the back end, like when. So like every single one of my investors are not VCs. None of them are. They're all strategic partners because they build and invest all the time anyways. So they might as well do it in something that directly and materially affects their own bottom line. And that's how you eliminate like the friction of asking for money and monetization. Like just fund it. You're going to get the money back as I do the thing I'm doing. Right. And then all of a sudden it works out and you get to participate later. So like create situations where they have a vested interest in your success if you can.
That's really great. I mean, one of the things that I want to piggyback on that, because I'm going to kick it over to McKelvey to actually piggyback on that, because what I'm thinking about and what you and Ali have already made me think about is, and hopefully maybe this is something that will resonate with you, India, is that maybe the people that you're approaching who seem like the ones who should have the budget are not the ones who have the budget. So for example, if you're reaching out to the people in conservation, their budget is already set, it's already controlled. But who's the person above that has some responsibility? Is it a governor? Is it somebody, who's heading agriculture for the state? Is it like, who is the person who ultimately is going to feel the pain if there are invasive species? The reason why I want to punt over to McKelvey, you've had some great success in your career in reaching out to the right people and kind of getting those meetings. And I'd love to hear kind of how that happens and if some of this is resonating with you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jamie. So I just wanted to kind of summarize some things that I'm hearing because so you had 2 problems. None of us have like directly addressed your first problem, and that's because the second problem drives the first problem. So you need to be going after these users and customers and asking them what they want. So approach them with that. Give them a few data points that they can lean on, and then you start learning what else they need. Like Evan and Ali have been saying, and that will change your product roadmap for what your developers are building. Yeah, in terms of reaching the right people, you did say something pretty significant earlier, that like, yeah, conservation is not, or the people you're trying to talk to right now don't have huge budgets, don't have much money to spend on it. And while it's very necessary, it might be a very hard place to break into initially. They don't have that budget, so they might not be wanting to spend as much money for this type of stuff. So I'm wondering, like you did mention construction, etc. There's in Cleveland specifically, there are a lot of, there's a lot of development happening. There's the bedrock development on the riverfront, etc. Like, what kind of things can you do around the riverfront and potentially Park Lakefront, like the airport there? They're analyzing that all the time to see what they can do there. Like, what could you do, and approach to development companies do have a lot of money to give them that data that they're looking for. And yeah, so once you figure out that and who has that type of budget, then you like, I like going to person events, and then there might be people there who are higher up and have that budget, and you just get that initial traction. So it doesn't have to be necessarily directly what you're solving, but if you can talk to them about talk to them about what you're trying to, what you can do, not what you're directly solving, but what you can do, that you'll start hearing different things of what their problems are, and think about how you can apply your solution to that. And then once you get someone to latch onto that, then you can build a product around that. And I think I mentioned, was it the Arizona Alliance, Shanna, at NASA a few months ago?
For Aero Days?
The Aero Days, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that Arizona, right.
the director of the Ohio Department of Transportation was there, and they do use drones for different scenarios for their department. So learning what they use, what they're currently doing and what they're collecting, and then seeing what else you can do to help with that data gives you a leverage.
It's another vertical. I want to. Allie's had her hand up for a bit, so let me kick it over to Allie.
Yeah, I wanted to actually ask about that first problem, because as someone that's been on teams and CTO and stuff, what do you mean by support the teams for like revenue futures? Like, what exactly do you mean by that?
Mm. So, like how to support them so that they can build, what needs to be built. Because a lot of them are, just leaving master's programs. This is their like first industry kind of experience. I'm not a super seasoned team leader. To like set them up for success, I guess. Especially when I'm still working on building out solid operations. Building out SOPs, especially around, the software. Because, we hit MVP like late last year, then don't really have a lot of like, SOPs around, sales and development. How do I set them up for success so that they can do what they need to do, on that end of things? Ideally with minimal hand holding, but if I don't mind hand holding at all. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like that. How do I structure that?
Okay. So I think one of the biggest things is like you're gonna have to find somebody that has the skill set. You're gonna have to find them a mentor somehow. That's one of the biggest things. Like going for my career. The other is like how bad is the thrashing on feature sets and how you're managing that? Because one of the things for being a junior developer to like recently walking in and being in a company with like take us from 10 million to 100 million software, the first thing I ask is what are we building and why are we building it? And if you're constantly switching that answer, it's going to take you 10 times as long with 10 times the money with people wanting to quit pretty quickly. It gets really thrashy. So how is your thrash in terms of the team and what they're doing?
Mm. So we have one part-time that they do most of the integrations. That's the software developers for engineering part where they integrate things. The other two are more data engineering, data analytics. So they're more on model training. Um, Probably no software integration, no software engineering. And then a third is kind of a mix of everything. And so I sometimes have difficulty placing him, but he learns pretty quickly. And I don't mind doing the extra hand holding because he is very eager to gain skills and, do more. And he's a mix of like front end and a little bit of back end as well. So it's a combination of the model training, but then a lot of the features that I want to add, I know one of them I'm going to have to do. I'll be the way around it. Either my skill set, I have to implement that. And another two, I would like them to be able to do. But they're both software integration. So it's not just a model part.
I was going to say real quick. I mean, one of the things that's running through my mind is the fact that people, when you want to drive engagement and gain clarity, right, that is correspondingly related to like eliminating ambiguity, right? So like what he's talking about, oh, well, if I don't know what exactly we're here to do and where we're even going, that just instantaneously creates distorted resistance into like, well, what do I even do? Because I'm not clear on it. So like the idea of having a precise target on its own give clarity, but it also eliminates resistance in the sense of like, well, I know what I don't need to worry about. So I would just say, to the degree that you can, provide as much clarity and specificity to your team as possible, because what you're actually doing is offloading that from your own mind, right? Which kind of inherently creates inefficiency in leadership. So it's like making everybody's role really clear. So that goes back to you having an extraordinarily clear view of what you're doing and why, because unless you're crypto clear, everyone else will be in a fog no matter what. So like it has to start with you.
Yeah. Well, I threw a question in the chat, which is, in my experience working with devs and especially new devs and interns, is that having a really strong product roadmap and with really clear epics really helps. So that way everybody already knows kind of what it is that they're working on, what they're working towards. Everything is modularized and you're not having to explain things all the time. There's a map. You know exactly where you're going and what the steps are that you need to get there. But a lot of that also fits in. But the question for the panel right now is this a situation where, a co-founder might help? It sounds like there's more work than what one person can do, especially when you're looking at customer discovery, identifying, new potential verticals and who has that money at starting to make those sales, and then managing that product roadmap and the development towards that. So I'd love to hear from the panel on that. And I think Ali, you had spoke up first in the chat. So if you just want to share that thought.
Yeah, I mean, I would highly recommend like a high level tech co-founder if you can find one, even if it's fractional. The other thing that's a little difficult in this stage, like I hear you say, like they can do this, this, and this, but I know that I'm gonna have to do this feature. And for me, that stands out as a little bit of a red flag on two fronts of like, now we've got to a bus problem. Like if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, it's like, okay, someone's take this over, no one else can code it. No, like that's a terrifying situation to be in. On top of some of the things I like to do, is if I don't think they can do it, I'll still assign them that feature and I will also code it and we'll do like regular check-ins where I'll be like, where are you? And this is why I did it, and kind of like teach them. Because you don't want to get in a sticky situation either where, let's say you make one of these big sales that we're talking about and somebody goes, we need this crazy feature. And you go, I'm the only one that can do it. And then suddenly like you have to do all the other things as a co-founder where we've talked before, you're like, I got to get grants. I got to do legal. I got to do blah, blah. And it's like, now you are the problem in the way of all these other things happening. So I would highly recommend that you find somebody technical that it doesn't keep you awake. You just go, okay, technical thing, throw it over. They'll train them. They got it. That's their mentor. I got to go focus on these 97 other things on fire.
And have you met Ben Locke? And
I heard his name. I don't know if I've met him in person.
I'll make an intro. He's a great technical he'd be a great technical person, and he's had an exit in the climate space. So, yeah, so as everyone's been saying, clarity and like no one specifically said fewer, but focus on fewer items is always the best thing to go. So you obviously want a grand vision for your company, but if you can create that clarity and break things down into as many fewer items as possible, but you give that to your chief, say, hey, work on this, then you go on to the next one. Hey, the customer's requesting now then that's the next few items that get worked on, and they all build to each other, bringing on like you're the guy who sees that grand vision. I also wanted to give an example of what I was saying earlier, because about like how to make those strategic connections. What I was saying was kind of high level and like they just make those connections. Go on network. But so to give an actual story of the he went one day 1 minute. Yeah. Okay. So we went to it was a government conference, GOD conference. We were pitching. One of the judges immediately said, "Oh, this is like a CAC card." He had no idea what a CAC card was. I immediately searched what that was. I read up what it was, and it's essentially a card you plug into your computer to log you into things. And I was like, yeah, that's immediate. Yeah, that is like what we're doing, except you don't have to plug it in. You walk away. People forget the CAC card plugged into the computer all the time. We were then able to use that as a leverage point to get our Air Force contract. Like we continued using that to talk to every DoD person we talked to. And so once you find that one word or phrase or leverage, something that you can associate your business with, your solution with, then you keep driving that in with everybody who can relate to that.
Oh, thank you for that, accounting. Well, great. Yeah, we hope that some of this was helpful for you and gave you some things to think about. And, maybe there's some unlocks here. Thank you so much for being the hot seat with us and we're definitely wishing you a lot of great success.
Thank you all very much. This was very helpful. I'm going to compile my minutes now. Thank you, dude.
Excellent. Well, with that, let's bring our final founder up, and that Dave Musa. Musa, welcome to the hot seat. Tell us a little bit about your company and about your pain point or your challenge.
Hey everybody, afternoon. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lulu's company. We have two different offerings for our company. We offer consulting services, so it's great to hear that feedback from folks if this is something that you should continue to pursue. And we also have an app we just launched, developed, we haven't really launched it yet, called our Dust, similar to Exodus, which is a play on my name, Moses. And the goal of the app is to allow teens to accomplish 1 to 3 goals per week. With their parent getting a snapshot of what they're doing, how they're progressing, and how they're being influenced. It's designed as a social media infrastructure app. And our core positioning, core goal right now is to transition into digital wellness. Our pain points are somewhere in me. I feel like they're kind of related. I'll go in order, kind of like a Russian next Bengal. The first one is funding. This has been self-funded by myself. And so I put a lot of time and effort toward originally we're consulting, going to conference days, meeting some of these folk who I'm making connection with over the last 2 years. We started back in 2021. So now that we're doing software and we're looking to bring in some additional customers, you need the cash on hand to be able to do development and customer outreach to bring in some of the clients that you need. Just as some of you know, messages allow integrators to come see some of these and technology product we're trying to build. The second is traction, which I've heard from a lot of folks. I don't really know what that means. So that's like my first question. Like, what does that tend to mean when people say, hey, we like what you're doing, we like what you're, it's not a no, because saying we didn't see no traction. We got that from a few VCs or some of the old entities that are going to do funding. The last thing, which is kind of something that came up, is how do we kind of facilitate some funding through strategic partnerships, because we do offer consulting services. And Shannon and Jamie mentioned that one of the things I may need to work on would be our pitch deck and how we present that and make sure that actually showcases what we're doing, who I am through my teammate, and what goes with the provide. So that's our company and our game.
That's great. Thank you so much. And yes, we are actually going to probably have a special hot seat where we're going to go through your deck. So stay tuned. I apologize for not scheduling that yet, but we'll make sure that happens. I'm going to answer the traction thing just so that we can have our panelists move on and focus on your other problems, because those are much more interesting. I'm sure they have a lot of thoughts on that. But traction is really going to depend upon the stage that your company is in. But it's whatever signals that there is interests from the market. And so if you are pre-launch, that can be waitlist signups. It can be, winning pitch competitions. It can be a few different things. But once you've launched, it's usually users. Obviously, VCs, institutional investment, they prefer revenue. Dollars are always their most preferred traction maker. I say always, but there's some caveats to that. But really, it's the different ways that they measure that there is actually some interest from the market and interest from customers. So it can be early signups. It can be overall downloads if it's an app. It can be the amount of people that are moving from free to paid. It can be overall revenue. So there are multiple ways, like I said, to measure traction, and it really. And with that, we'll focus on some of your other case ones that you had mentioned. And I will kick it over to our panel. Who wants to chat with us first? I know Evan wants to.
I do, but I'm like, I can't just keep. It's like,
Oh, do it, Evan. Do it. We love it.
well, I mean, I feel like I'm a little bit of a ninja when it comes to raising money. So, I am not for you, like institutional VC guys, forget it. Like, if not that they can possibly, but like they're just not a good fit for you. What you want are angels who, by definition, think from their own perspective, which is to say they buy stories, they buy founders, they buy the passion and like the impact they're trying to make, right? So like that's what resonates there. And so based on that, I would build your deck with like leading with you, your vision, and what you're here to try to do. Like that's the story that they want to hear, because the reality is they're not going to make it to the end of the deck until they decide like, oh, I like this guy, I'm buying this guy, because that's ultimately what they're doing at this stage. You've got to be really, really succinct and like high impact, right? Like there cannot be any fat on this filet mignon. Like it has to be absolutely flawless. And it can't be very long, because I think your value prop is such to where it's like, hey, we're doing this for kids, it's safety, it's this. That's like super apparent and actually probably preferable compared to like a bunch of the technical crap that I've had to do, where it's like I have to provide context before I can even tell them what the hell it is I'm doing. So like that's very direct. And then the reality is beyond that is like, get an accurate idea of what do you actually need. Okay. And so here's psychology that wins every single time. And it's not so much that it wins, but it allows you to have a chance to win, which is unless you give somebody a specific set of data that they can then make a decision on, they're not going to make a decision. So your lack of clarity, we go back to the clarity thing, is the thing that either allows or disallows them to make a decision, right? So the reality, look at it this way. Everything begins with you. So vision even is downstream from identity, okay? If you don't have a personal identity that is clear and crystalline and solid and easily definable at a granular level, you're gonna have a very difficult time communicating it in a broader, more expansive way. Does that make sense? Like it has to be solid in the beginning. Otherwise, it's just going to be diffuse. So it's like, focus on that, get clear on who you are, why you're doing this, and then concentrate that into steps, like with like relay logic, like if then this, right? Like I go out in concentric circles and I build my story as a literally atomic nuclei builds mass by pressure increasing. Think about that, right? That's a progression that tracks everywhere. So I'll leave it there.
Really quickly before Ali actually was gonna ask you a question, so I'm glad you raised your hand. But we actually received our first investment from an angel, and they actually said that they were investing in me. So that's like good feedback because I think that's something that we're continuing to figure out is how can we position our team as that, hey, this is the value right now because we have a pilot going, but we're still trying to really it's just trying to fund some of the things we're doing to get the pilot set up and structured. So that's good feedback to hear that that's something that people are looking to see is like how valuable is the person that's starting this company.
Ali, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask a couple follow-up questions just to get like the funding problem is like how much are you guys trying to raise and how long does that take?
So I'm gonna try to answer this as quickly as possible. So the angel investor came in and they effectively did deferred services and they're into like a grant style max. So we have to raise $25,000. And they're gonna do branding, marketing. That's gonna include some pitch deck and branding redevelopment. And then we're gonna raise with them. And we also have a law firm based out of DC that works with a lot of tech companies that would be interested in joining for our pre-seed round. So the 25,000 is like the first benchmark that we need so we can, they're also gonna do app development. So it's like a pretty, I was getting quoted for like 100,000 to 75,000 just to do the app part. So they're gonna do all that plus marketing and branding. So really gonna need the 25,000 to get us to the next point, and we'll be able to raise with a group of people. They're very experienced. They do this. They're based in the GCC, the Middle East, effectively. And they do a lot with startups, not just in the Middle East, but also in the US. So they have the experience and the cachet to add, but we need to get that first benchmark to get everything kind of roll.
Yeah, so just to sum that up, they're putting in 25K, you have to find 25K, they're giving you dev, but how much are you asking for at the end of the day, even when they're giving you all the app like all the developers and everything?
I guess we could be technically only asking for the 25K because that's all we need to get started. Okay, originally we structured for 100,000 for friends and family, and that's what they ended up kind of coming in at.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I forgot my second question, so he wants to go really quick.
I would say eat 10 times more than that. I don't care what you think you know. The fact is, every single time you need 5 to 10 times more, and it's going to be 5 to 10 times harder. I'm telling you right now, you're going to get eaten by a buzzsaw if you think you're going to go anywhere with 25K. And that's going to be very disheartening to not only you, but your team. And so the fact that you need to get clear on exactly the reality of what you're trying to do so that you don't go out there and put something out there and realize, oh, I didn't calculate this, which doesn't lend you credibility to your team and or other investors. Okay. So like, this is me trying to save you from embarrassment, literally, that will stop people from investing in you if you don't think about everything right now. And I mean, everything.
For the total line storage loads for the pre-seed round, so right now we're still in our friend and family round. The pre-seed round is going to be 1.5 million. They want us to get 25,000 to start, and then we're going to raise with them at that 1.5 million. So that's why I was kind of just trying to get clarity on what Ali was asking because the core need, like if someone's coming to me right now and say, hey, I can write you a check. How much do you need? And if you ask me for too much, I'm going to say no. I would say 25,000. I can go raise the rest with a few friends of mine. Once we get past the first step. But I agree, that's the biggest feedback we've gotten from this. I've talked to a few folks as we've transitioned to develop an app. Is it's going to cost a lot of money, and I'm presuming that $1.5 million for a pre-seed round is still not enough. But given the experience level of our core team and the fact that we can get something out there and get it in parent hands and team's hands relatively quickly, it's a reasonable ask. Again, we're also in a region where, I'm not going to find someone, in close proximity that can cut a large check.
Just interrupt you really quick because what that you said is that you feel that like 1.5 million is probably the number. And to Evan's point, it's really critical to have specificity around these things. So you have to know, like, what do you expect your burn to be? What do you expect your runway to be? So this is where having a financial model is really critical so that you can understand, all right, what are going to be like kind of the product development milestones? What did these product development milestones unlock for us? What's the spend that we have to have for marketing and for operations and for ops tech, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to Evan's point, and I'm sure Ali was about to go there as well, is that you have to have these numbers down. Like, we expect to have to pay this many developers. We expect to have to spend this much on marketing, and this is what it'll bring in terms of revenue. And we won't be cash flow positive until this date. And so that how much you raise is based on two things. That what you need to hit the next big milestone so that so that you can raise more if you're going institutional, or if you are going angel, how much you need to raise to hit a core MVP to deliver on at least part of your promise. So that way you get enough users that you can show, yes, this does what we say it's going to do. We're hitting the promise that we say we're going to hit. And so now we raise that next chunk of money. But a lot of that is based on really hard things around operations, around development, around marketing. And I mean, I turn it back over to Ali because I see her nodding her head.
Yeah. Like so I've raised a pre-seed company where we raised $4 million, like in a global raise. When blockchain was huge and it was an indexing company, all this stuff. With you like having like the traction problem and like understanding what that is, when you're asking for 1.5 million in a pre-seed round, and when I hear pre-seed, I usually treat that as like you don't really have anything. You're starting out, like you're not making money. So a few points is like I have to like back me up. It's like you need to have a pro forma, and you need to have this thing where it's like this is where the money's going. This is when the money runs out. This is when we're gonna like break even. This is where like they're gonna really hammer in you like where's this going, because that would be the first thing that I would. Yeah, and then the other that is a hard sell. Like where are you planning on raising this money in terms of the team up? Because a lot of the places, especially in the Midwest Ohio, just don't want to play that gamble. Like I'm gonna be honest, we basically had to take the advice of get on a plane and like you're gonna go raise serious money. Like you're gonna have a hard time doing that around here.
Right. I'll let McKelvey jump in to answer that question because I want to kind of get some more feedback, or if I jump into that one. But that's something that we've been thinking about.
Yeah, just to hop onto what everybody's saying, like you want to raise approximately 18 to 24 months of runway, and you want to raise that full amount in one go. So typically a fundraising process, it might be longer now. The situation is rougher now, but it was around 6 months is a full fundraising process. And if you don't raise that full amount during that process, then you'll get into a cycle where you're constantly fundraising and you never actually get to step back from that and build your business. Because fundraising, you're not actually building your business. And it is a full-time job. So unless you raise that full amount based on those hard metrics that everybody's been talking about, you'll get into that loop and you won't grow.
That's a good. Also, that's good feedback. I'll to the point of where we'll raise. This is actually really. This took me longer to accept than I would have appreciated. Um, my past self would have appreciated. We're gonna have to raise this anywhere but the Midwest, just to be completely honest. So we have a co-founder that's in the Bay Area, and then like I mentioned, our partners in the Middle East. I would just say the the thing that they've been telling me is that we want to get to a point where we can, because that I mentioned this, I don't like to talk about it too much, but we use AI within the app, and that's one of the ways in which we deliver the product. So the speed within the AI industry, obviously, as you know, shrinks everything. So if we were to raise the $1.5 million, that would really be a second stage of proof of concept, where this first stage is an MVP. Second stage, we're going to proof of concept. We have a few folks that we can bring in, show, hey, we can effectively build traction. Would you ask about this? But we're going to raise in the Bay Area, New York City. I have a bunch of friends. I went to a boarding school with kids all across the world, so I have connections in a bunch of different places. So the Bay Area, New York City, and the GCC are going to preferably look to fundraise. The reason I asked the fundraising question is, and I feel like I've gotten a lot of clarity on this, is like, so we have a financial model. I'm fairly comfortable with it. We got, and the angel investors that came in, so to McKelvey's point, it kind of changed everything because we were targeting a friend and family round to get us to an MVP. So we had a particular budget there, but then they came in and said, hey, we're going to take care of who we're going to spend money on, which is going to be marketing and branding and web development. So it's like, okay, well, that's the number that they gave us isn't akin to how much we were going to spend on that. So now we pretty much, our whole financial model about blew up because now we have to rethink how we're going to budget. So we're in the process of finding the financial models. I definitely need to do. Let's think through what is the new financial. I think that was all the questions that I gotten so far, but I'm glad I waited. I need to get a little bit more information.
What I'll say when it comes to modeling financials, dude, it's like, first of all, you have no idea what it actually is. Like, you can't know. And so like if that's still a concern, like, just flush that, because the reality is, yes, you need to present a very professional, sophisticated financial model, but it can only be based on what you know, which is very little at this point. The reality is, all the investors are looking for is the fact that you took the time to create something really specific and well done. Then and you have to assume this is part of the deal. They're going to be like, well, I agree with this, and this, da, 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 da. Here's what this actually needs to look like. That goes back to my point of, like, give them something to decide on, because what they're actually going to decide is what it needs to look like, because they actually know that. So from a modeling standpoint, just put it out there. It has to look beautiful, comprehensive. You can't miss anything. And there's like a trillion templates about how to do this. So that's not hard to figure out. Plug in the numbers, put your best foot forward, and then let them chew on it and like give you some kind of echo back as to like what this actually needs to look like. So you can't be afraid to put it out there and put yourself out there and ask questions, because they all know that real successful founders are fearless when it comes to taking risk, putting themselves out there and being vulnerable about, like, well, hey, I just want to solve this problem. I don't care if it makes you look stupid now. This is a step up this flight of stairs. That's the whole point. So, and then, kind of like one other tiny thing when it comes to the, like, I may have it unlocked for you. I've got a team. So I've got a fintech. We're about to scale like stratospheric, okay? And I've got a national partnership with Equifax. I'm working on a deal with Exelon, which is the biggest utility in the country. Like, that's where I'm playing. And I can tell you, I found a group of guys in Minnesota, okay? Minnesota, they literally love to go curling. And they have this AI dev platform that uses a gigantic plethora of really amazing agents all in one, like, concentrated form. They can spit out unbelievably complex, fully functional apps in 72 hours, okay? And like, I'm literally using them to rebuild my entire app end to end, like dream state product rather than using actual does. Like the reality is, and you're talking 8 to 10 grand, 12 grand a month. It's just an ongoing deal. And it constantly learns, builds, iterates 24 hours a day, doesn't need motivation, doesn't need clarity, actually. It's just he does the thing and it produces insane results. Like you could have a functioning like demo app of like what you're trying to do to then go close investment deals in less than a week. I'm not even kidding. It's wild.
Really quick, I had a question for Ali because you mentioned this. I want to say in the first set, what does stickiness look like when it comes to apps designed for multiple customer buckets? So our primary customer buckets are the teens, their parents, and then some sort of administrative kind of like extra person. So like thing that we should be targeting High Scouts, they're kind of just exploring the app. We're doing some modifications to it, and then we're gonna give them like a second version of it within the next 2 weeks. So like what's something that you've noticed in your experience that makes people say, hey, this is what I need to come back to? I know Evan in the beginning mentioned like cut all the questions out. I learned that the hard way. So like what's something that you've noticed where you're like, hey, this is what makes people never want to put this thing down?
That was an interesting question. A lot of it is like, yeah, making it easy to use, but it's also like I would say that it's like a per product thing. Like I can't really think of like there's this golden like this is what you do to get stickiness. It's like looking at your feature set and looking what people are using. But when you identify your problem for your product, right? The reason you're doing this is because you're like, this sucks, this is hard. I do this, now it's easy. It's finding to make sure that that connection that you have is correct. Like there's lots of tools that I use or a lot of things that I build for like cybersecurity and like doing all this stuff where it used to be 20 lines of code, now it's one. Like I'll pay for that. It saves me whatever saving time. So I would say it's sitting down. Like I would have to sit down and be like, show me your feature set. What are you doing? Show me like what we were talking about, like heat maps, and be like, why is that working? Is it a psychological thing? Is it gamification? Is it just because you made something easy? You took something that was $10,000 a month and you're like, I can do better at 1,000. Like there's all these different things that can make it sticky. But that's a really hard, like general question.
I want to echo what Ali just said because she made a really good point, which is it's really product specific. But one of the things that's really critical is that it isn't always about what's easy. I want you to think about if you've ever used Figma or Adobe Photoshop, for the people who don't know how to use it at first, it is not easy, but it solves a critical problem that nothing else can solve. So generally, people are going to stick with your app either because it's solving something that nothing else can solve, and that's important to them. It does a job. There's a whole thing about like what job does this do? What job is this doing for someone? And you use that a lot in marketing for all sorts of products. So it's called the jobs to be done. So you can Google that and find a lot of stuff about that, but you can do interviews around that and whatnot. But the other thing is it might be, is it fun? Is that the job that it's doing? It's entertaining, it's engaging, it feels good. You look at TikTok, where you have endless scrolling and people are like, oh my God, I just spent 4 hours on TikTok. What is going on in my life? Who am I? But it's not really the job that it's doing is that it's just so engaging that it allows you to kind of turn your brain off, to disassociate from things, whatever. Sometimes these are unhealthy jobs, but the fact is it's either solving a problem that nothing else can solve or it's scratching some kind of itch. It's enjoyable in some way. It's engaging for some reason. But to Ali's point, like that's going to be different for each and every product and for each and every customer. And if we could answer it in one or two features, all of us would be millionaires because we would have just solved product market fit for every single customer and every single product. With that, we've got 2 minutes left if anybody wants to jump in and has any thoughts.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, go back to fundraising a little bit. So the service provider that is investing that work, et cetera, try to talk to them and ask really clarifying questions on what they're actually giving you, because we've worked with service providers to give us certain work, and it ended up costing 10 times more than what they originally quoted us at. And especially if they're taking equity for that work, it sometimes skyrockets a lot because of that. And as you grow, and if you start going after institutional investors, they don't like service providers being on the cap table either. So yeah, just be aware of that.
Well, because it's like, what are you getting and for how long are you getting? And then what is the actual hidden cost of it? Because those deals, almost all of them tend to be losers in my estimation, because you're not really getting as much as, and the reality is they are getting everything from you to whatever scope they've negotiated forever, regardless if they, like, yes, you could use some dilutive mechanism. Point, it doesn't look good. Nobody wants to see it. Try to shift as much of it as possible. Guaranteed, like percentage of future revenue. That's so much easier versus giving away equity, dude. Like that's literally like giving away your soul just because some guy's got a box of tools and can come do it. And stuff. Like that's like saying I want to give part of my life to my plumber or something because I can afford it. Like that's insane to me. Think about that, because what they're really looking for is money. So then fine. I'll cut you in. You help me get to MVP product launch, and then I'll cut you in on the revenue, right? Like never give a service provider equity as far as I'm concerned. I just think it's, yeah.
So they do more than service. They actually have they have a full suite of things that they do. They actually do serve as investors, the two of them. So one of the things I know we're running short on time. One of the things I was doing, with considering, is having them, in addition to the service provider agreement, come in with cash. And they've already given us like a huge, kind of, it's kind of like I wouldn't disagree with that. It's kind of like a venture studio, pay for. However, give us some sort of cash that would make it a lot more manageable, and it would speed up our runway to, raising funds, just patterns that they have. I always love answering questions too.
Yeah. Well, Ali, last comment, 30 seconds.
Yeah, really quick. I would just say, as the owner of a startup studio, I agree with everybody saying, like, make sure you ask a lot of questions in that deal, because like one of our biggest things is being founder friendly. And so we try to make sure that we are pulling those levers of like equity and revenue share and cash or whatever needs to happen or whatever that investment needs to look like. But also like, what goals do we hit? What's our cliff? Like you need to be asking like, when does this mature? Like you're not just be like, okay, here's 5% or 20%. Now you have it and we're going. It's like, no, it's 4 years. You got to get me to like $250,000. You get like all these things that you can get out if you need to, if they're not providing. Because you need to protect yourself. So that's what, but we do it, and there should be a lot of levers being pulled in that deal.
Yeah, don't give them pro rata rights. Make sure you have buyback options in place. Like I think about the terms of a term sheet, because they'll kill you, dude. Like there are things they could structure in those deals that you won't even know it if you read it. And it's telling you, you've got to understand what it is. It's hieroglyphs, dude. They know it, and that's how they do it. So like they are not actually for you in the sense of like, oh, we want to just take care of you and coddle you. These guys are sharks. That's why they're at the top doing this. So like you have to understand, and you can't be a guppy swear out these guys, but they're just like, well, this is my lunch 3 weeks from now. Like,
well, they make sure they don't own your IP either, because there's things that in states like they will just yank your IP, and next thing you know, you see your product out there and they're making millions.
Yeah, so these are all great points. I am actually glad that we went over with this, because I think for our audience that is going to watch this later, those are going to be some really great points. Musa, thank you so much for being in the hot seat.
Thank everybody. It was awesome
To have you. And it was great to have India and Amir as well. With that, we're gonna really just quickly wrap up, but I do want to say thank you to everybody. If you are interested in being in the hot seat in the future, reach out to OSN, the Ohio Startup Network. This is a great organization that is really working to bring coastal eyes to the Midwest and coastal dollars to the Midwest, where we have a lot of innovation and grit and talent. So thank you to our experts as well. You guys are amazing. Give yourselves a round of applause. And we will see you. We'll see everybody again in for our next batch of folks in about a month. So thank you, everyone.